From Mike the Gamer Guy on YouTube comes a podcast analyzing and discussing video games. This is the Mike the Gamer Guy podcast.
Mike the Gamer Guy.
Hello, everybody. So after a brief fluke, welcome to the Mike the Gamer Guy podcast live, the first ever live podcast. And I just went through this actually a moment ago, but then I messed up the audio, so we're trying again. Anyway, so basically, I don't always want to stream video games, but I do like talking about video games quite a bit, and I would like to stream something, so this is the new format for that. When I don't want to play a game, but I want to talk about it, here we have a live podcast show where you can, chat with me about whatever we're talking about, and it'll be a great time. Anyway, today we're talking about we're talking about the characters of Smash Bros. Ultimate. We know that there's at least a few character reveals left, and I'm going to be going through some of the popular picks here, giving my thoughts on them, as well as throwing out some of my own ideas that are maybe on the kind of the wilder side, characters you might not have thought of before, or what have you. And that is the premise. I've already explained this once, so I'm straining to do it again. Anyway, let's get right into it and start with our good friend Bandana Waddle Dee here, which is probably the second most popular pick currently for Smash Bros. Ultimate, right next to Geno. And as an outsider looking in, this is a very bizarre pick. I've not played a Kirby game extensively since Nightmare and Dreamland for Game Boy Advance. Before that, I played pretty much all the games, like all the main ones at least. Kirby's Dream Land Adventure 64, which is probably my favorite. I played Superstar more recently, actually, but not. I didn't really, dig into it that much. So I didn't really know what the deal with this character was. Just looking at it, it just seems like a kind of a generic throwaway character. I was surprised that it was so popular. So I did some research. Turns out it's an incidental character that was originally introduced in Superstar as like a mini boss or something like that. And it just from there, after Sakurai left, I guess he became the fourth main playable character in the Wii game, and has really just taken off. I think he's very popular in Japan, is my understanding of it. But his popularity does kind of confuse me. I would liken it to the Blue Toad from the new Super Mario Bros. Games. That's just this throwaway generic character from elsewhere in the game world. And we'll take him out, we'll give him a unique attribute. In the case of Toad, it's his blue color. In the case of Bandana Dee, it's the bandana. And we'll just drop him in there, and that'll be the fourth playable character, because we couldn't have thought of anything else. We couldn't have either made it wholly original creation, or taken another character that was pre-established and made that a playable character. In New Super Mario Bros., it's less forgivable because you had the yellow and blue Toads, which obviously could have been like a Wario and Waluigi situation. But oh well, I guess it's not the time or place for that. But yeah, I was sort of surprised by this one. He did very well in the Smash ballot, which, according to Sakurai's last column that he wrote, is something he's been looking at for Smash Ultimate. So I wouldn't doubt that he could make it in, if he's popular enough. I just think to maybe people who aren't Kirby fans, it would come across as maybe a bit of a weird choice. And I know that, and the character in and of itself, much like the Blue Toad, is sort of generic, even as the Bandana Waddle Dee, because in Rainbow Curse, I think if you have more players in that game, there's like a yellow and a green Bandana Waddle Dee, so it has like a sort of disposable nature about it. So, I don't know, I could see it happening just because it's a popular fan pick, but as, someone who's really likes Nintendo games and who's a big fan of Smash Brothers, this character really doesn't get me excited in any real way. but I would be very happy for everyone who wants him in. Even if I don't personally understand it, partially because I don't really have a tie to the Kirby series at this point, I would at least be happy for people who want to see him get in. But yeah, just my thoughts is he's a little bit generic. So I guess my final verdict on that one is it'll probably happen. Next up, Banjo-Kazooie. Oh yeah, I should mention, we're going to just go through the totally newcomers first, and then we'll move into Echo Fighters later in the stream. So Banjo-Kazooie is a pretty highly requested one. I've heard arguments both ways. Personally, I would love to see it happen. I feel like just because Rare is no longer with Nintendo, that doesn't like invalidate all of Banjo-Kazooie and really Rare's importance to the Nintendo brand, especially during the N64 era. We kind of got some Rare representation in the form of King K. Rool, which was a character that was very tied to the Rare version of Donkey Kong. But Banjo-Kazooie would be a wonderful addition anyway. I know Phil Spencer has said stuff like, yeah, I would love to see Banjo-Kazooie, and on Twitter and stuff. I don't really know if things are that easy where you can just send a tweet to Mr. Xbox, like, what do you think about this? Oh yeah, sure. It would be great. Like, there's got to be business dealings in the background, and I would imagine they'd at least want something. I don't think they're just going to give the character away for free. Phil Spencer's comments could be anything. It could be, oh sure, I'd be fine with it for the right price. I'd be fine with it, asterisk, you know. So I don't think that's as solid evidence as some people want to point to. That being said, I think back when Sakurai was making Melee, the idea of putting Banjo-Kazooie or some Rare character in came up. I know that there was even the idea of like James Bond kind of being floated at the time because GoldenEye was so popular. And there's even some like Perfect Dark / GoldenEye stuff left in the game, like the motion sensor bomb. But then of course everything with Rare getting sold to Microsoft. So I guess I'm just gonna say no on this one. Probably, unfortunately, it is one that I would love to see get in. I don't know if it's the second one on my list after King K. Rool, but it's definitely up there. I don't think they're that relevant anymore. The same argument could be made for King K. Rool. He hasn't been seen in a really long time, but he's tied to Donkey Kong Country, which is just a hugely important series for Nintendo that's constantly getting re-releases. Like recently on both the 3DS Virtual Console and the SNES Mini. So I feel like he's still in people's minds, and he was so tied to the Donkey Kong Country brand and the Donkey Kong brand as a whole as the main antagonist. So that one makes more sense. Banjo-Kazooie, they haven't been on Nintendo consoles for a while, and in addition to that, they haven't really had any games at all since Nuts and Bolts. So probably no, but this would be an amazing addition in my opinion. So talk about leaks briefly. Leaks in giant quotation marks. This is from Virgiben, who's been fairly correct so far with his Smash Brothers leaks or predictions or whatever they are. He's guessed Ridley, Simon, and is that it? That might be it, honestly. Oh, I think he also said that Ice Climbers and Snake were back. So that's his credibility there. But recently he said there's going to be a new Square Enix character added in. A lot of people thinking Geno. I'm thinking possibly Geno. Definitely did very well on the Smash ballot. However, I'm going to look at Dragon Quest, and Dragon Quest's most popular game, as voted by the public in Japan anyway, was Dragon Quest III, so I looked to the main character of that game. I don't really have any... Okay. 1 second, I gotta adjust the volume. This is the first time I'm doing this, and apparently I have it set so it reads the chat whenever someone leaves a comment. I'm gonna have to... probably want to change that. Anyway, so I don't really have any connection to this character. I've played Dragon Quest IV quite extensively, and I really like that one. And I played the first one enough to know that it's really not my thing. But Dragon Quest III is very popular. The Dragon Quest series is huge in Japan, completely revolutionary for its time. Basically created the JRPG genre There's a really good video by, I don't even know if they exist anymore, Clan of the Grey Wolf, where they go through the history of like Dragon Quest and kind of shed some light on how influential it is in Japan. And I think Sakurai has actually written about the series in the past. So, if we're going to get a representative from Dragon Quest, I think it's probably this guy. And if we get a Square Enix representative, another one in addition to Cloud, I'm going to say it's probably Dragon Quest character. There are some more like obvious ones. I think the slime is probably the most recognizable character from Dragon Quest, but that's kind of like a enemy character that it's hard to visualize what that would be like as a fighter. It's more like a Koopa or whatever the guys in Metroid are that you meet in the first area. It doesn't seem like fighter material. So I'm going to say I'm actually pretty confident about this one. And I think that a lot of people in the West are going to be kind of disappointed because Dragon Quest is not nearly as big over here as it is in Japan. But I think it'd be cool. I think it's an important series to represent at the very least. So this is Minecraft from the game Minecraft. I was informed before doing this podcast that this is Roblox, I guess. But either way. So Minecraft man, I'm gonna say. I recognize the shirt. This also stems from the Vergibon leaky stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna actually, we'll get to that right after the Minecraft thing because that's a good character to bring up. So Vergibon said that there's gonna be some kind of Minecraft representation in Smash Brothers. It makes sense. It is like the most popular game of all time at this point, no matter how much many of us might not like that. So I could see it happening. I could even see it being a character. Probably more likely now, because we've gotten all the stages. We know all the stages that are going to be in the game, and Minecraft stage is definitely not one of them. So throw that out. It could maybe appear as an assist trophy. That'd be a little bit weird to go through the effort of, getting Microsoft on board. Then again, I mean, Microsoft did allow Nintendo to produce their own, like, specialized texture pack for the Switch release. So, who knows where they stand on that exactly. But I'm actually fairly confident that this might be a character, which I know is very unpopular opinion in the Smash community right now. It's just, you can't deny the popularity of Minecraft, and you can't deny how many kids who might not be into Nintendo would really want to see that matchup happen and might be attracted to Smash Brothers and the Switch as a whole through the introduction of a Minecraft character. You gotta remember that the Wii U was not the best time for Nintendo as far as getting new people on board, so Nintendo might view this as a way to get that kind of audience that they missed out on just a little bit involved. I don't know. But I just think given the popularity of Minecraft and the fact that Sakurai has also played it, I've read at least one column where he's talked about it. I think originally he said that he played through it in creative mode, which was like a weird comment because it's like you don't really play through the game in creative, but regardless, minor thing. But it's definitely on Sakurai's mind to some degree, and I just think that the popularity of Minecraft is something that shouldn't be understated. So, to address comment by NES Gojira about Sora from Kingdom Hearts. This is a character I could definitely see. Kingdom Hearts always shocks me how popular that series actually is. How many people, like when I was in high school, knew about Kingdom Hearts, because I thought it was always kind of obscure, but no, it was a very popular series, I guess. I could see Sora. It would definitely be easy to make a moveset around him and his giant key attack, but I just wonder with the licensing stuff from Disney, how likely that is, because I don't think you can separate Sora from the Disney franchises. You gotta have like Mickey and Goofy and Donald in the Final Smash, in my mind. Like, you just don't have the character without that Disney stuff. And now I wouldn't doubt that Nintendo would go through the lengths to get it licensed. Like, that doesn't seem out of the question at all, but I imagine it'd be pretty expensive. So if they asked Disney and Disney said sure, there's also like kind of the weird idea of non-video game characters showing up in Smash Brothers. There's a few examples of this. The guy from Brain Age, for example, is based on a real human being. That's the main one that comes to mind right away. But then, like, the Disney properties, they're not really video game characters, so I don't know. I'm gonna say unlikely. And again, like, Sora doesn't really appear too much on Nintendo consoles. I think there was a Game Boy Kingdom Hearts, and I guess some portable ones. So there's that. But yeah, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say unlikely on that one, though. I think that would make a ton of people happy. Okay. No, interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, I'd look forward to it. It'd be interesting. That would definitely be a character that came out of the blue. At least I think so. I don't think many people are expecting him, even if they want him in. And Sakurai's all about his surprises. So, we'll see. Moving on, we got Geno. This is another Square Enix thing. In my mind, it's either Geno or I think the character's name is Erdrick from Dragon Quest. Geno's just so hugely popular on the ballot, and just in general. Square Enix is such a wild card too, because they've been pretty stingy as far as other elements go in Smash Brothers. Like, I don't think they have any assist-related stuff that's been revealed so far. They have one stage with only 2 songs, which complicates things. It makes me kind of skeptical of the whole idea of there being another character at all. But, I mean, Geno ties into the Nintendo thing better than any of their other characters, and the fact that he did do so well on the ballot, he got a Mii Fighter costume last game, I think points to... this character is definitely on Sakurai's mind, as I've been saying with some of these other ones. He's written about him a few times, and I want to say, what was it, maybe Melee he was considered for? So, this character has been in the pool before, so to speak, of possible characters. Those other ones include, like, Sukapon, and we know that character made it in as an assist trophy. And if he regards Geno kind of in the same way, then him becoming a character is definitely not out of the question, because I think he has a much more realizable moveset than Sukapon did, and I think a lot more people know and are thinking about Geno. So, essentially. But I could see Geno. I've played through Mario RPG all the way. I really enjoyed it. Playing through it, I never got the sense of why this character struck a chord with so many people. He's fine. He just doesn't have like a personality or anything that really like screamed out to me like Smash material, like all-star Nintendo character. I guess the idea that he has like a gun in his arm is kind of interesting. We sort of have that with Mega Man, but they could do it differently. I don't know. It's definitely something I'd be happy to see, just because representing Mario RPG in any way is really cool. And the Mario RPG genre as a whole, I don't know if you really call it a genre, but the series, whether it be Paper Mario, Mario and Luigi, or Mario RPG, hasn't really been represented in Smash all that much, if at all. So this would definitely be a good way to fit that into the whole Smash universe. But it just comes down to Sakurai, and also how many newcomers we're going to get. Because I can't imagine it's more than 2 at most, not counting Echo Fighters. So, it's up in the air on this one. I'm going to say... no, just because there's no way he can fulfill everyone's wishes, right? I mean, Ridley and K. Rool were so big that there's got to at least be someone that people are rooting for next Smash. And I'm going to say that's... Geno's going to be the big one. I'm actually going to put Bandana D over Geno in likelihood. So Isaac from Golden Sun, I know nothing about this franchise, and this was an assist trophy in Brawl that then skipped Smash Wii U, which is definitely interesting. I guess there hasn't been really any games for Golden Sun recently. The character is another sword fighter, which Sakurai's talked about Fire Emblem oversaturation a little bit in some of his columns, but I don't know if that idea expands out to sword fighter over representation. And it's never something that's bothered me. It's just a matter of fact that a lot of video game characters happen to have swords, so I'm not really bothered by the whole swords thing. But if he is thinking about it, and a lot of Smash fans are talking about that, then maybe this character isn't as likely just on the sword fighter front. I definitely think that as far as like the second tier asks, because I think we can all agree that K. Rool and Ridley were definitely at the top. As far as second tier asks go, Isaac seems kind of low, definitely below Bandana D and Gino. So I'm going to say very likely not in. Now there was what was it? I think a Twitter post that Sakurai did that people are pointing to as evidence of a Golden Sun representation, where it was like one of the screenshots on the website that was kind of framed like the battle scenes from Golden Sun. I think that is just it's just coincidental. He was probably just trying to show off the Monster Hunter thing, just because Monster Hunter is so big. But I don't know, maybe it was a Golden Sun reference. It would definitely be a character that's just not something I'm interested in at all. Like my main thing is I would be happy with any of these characters just because there's a very vocal group of people who want that character. But personally, I think Isaac does the least for me out of all these. And given the fact that I think Bandana D is kind of just a generic throwaway character, that's not great news. I guess he has the ability to like shoot a psychic hand or something. That's kind of neat, I guess. If they could make him more based around like magic moves, maybe that would be kind of cool. But yeah, this character just doesn't do much for me, and it's not from a series that I have any sort of interest in. Skull Kid is another one. Big speculation around this character from the last direct because of Sakurai's chairs in the background and then a pillow looked kind of like Skull Kid. And I think people are really reaching at this point. It's sort of similar to back during Smash 4, there was a cloud in the Greninja trailer that looked kind of like Pac-Man in his original arcade form, and so that was apparently confirmation of Pac-Man. That's just kind of weird to make those connections. It's just a cloud. Why would Sakurai like try and leave a hint like that? It doesn't really, I can't wrap my brain around it very much. But Skull Kid would be great for the heroes versus villains angle that apparently they're pushing. Definitely very strongly in the King K. Rool reveal trailer. This would be great for Young Link. And I don't know, Skull Kid's just an iconic character from probably the best, well, yeah, this is controversial, probably the best 3D Zelda ever. Breath of the Wild might usurp it a little bit, but definitely iconic. Definitely the most iconic non-Ganon villain in Zelda. What else you got? Vati, I think, and some of the dudes from the Oracle games. But I think Skull Kid is the one that people recognize, and people do recognize it. So as far as that goes, I think that, I mean, we're getting a lot of Majora's Mask representation as it is with the moon and with the Great Bay. If you wanted to just take it one step farther, it would give Skull Kid a perfect home battleground. So I'm really hoping for this character. At this point, this might be one of my top ones, and it would definitely satisfy me. But realistically, if he's in, it's not because Sakurai like put some chairs out and had some some pillows on his couch. That's just a little, weird for me. And there was also that LOZ18 guy who people are claiming has insider information about Smash, and he thinks that Skull Kid's in. Whatever that means. It's weird for one of these leakers to say, well, I think he's in from, not things I've been told, but just my assumptions. I don't think that's really where you should look, I guess. Oh well. I'm gonna say he's in. Why not? Skull Kid's in. So we'll say. This Screen Man is one that was really popular, like, I want to say before Ultimate was officially revealed, an ARMS character seemed like a sure-in, but now that we know that the project plan was decided back in 2015, it comes across as less likely, and I think, is his name Yabuchi? The director of ARMS has even stated that it's a little too early for ARMS characters to make it into Smash Brothers. But this would be a great contender for DLC, but in the base game, I don't think so. It would definitely be a unique character, and probably he'd be more fun to play in Smash Brothers than he is in ARMS itself, unfortunately. Even though ARMS is a pretty quality game. But, yeah, I don't see this one making it just because of the time constraints. And yeah, DLC, it seems almost like the only real character that they can do, like off the top of my head right now. Just from what we've already talked about, all the other characters I think are pretty viable to some degree to get into the base game. Serene Man is not, but he's like the number one pick for a new fighter in DLC. Okay, so this is a subset of newcomers before we get into Echoes. Every Smash Brothers game, aside from the first one, because that was just introducing the main cast, has had what I like to think of as a hardware rep. So Melee had Mr. Game & Watch to represent the Game & Watch line of consoles, because he's not really a character, he's an amalgamation of characters. Then Brawl had Rob, and then Wii U is kind of an interesting case with Duck Hunt, who's definitely based on the Duck Hunt game. But then a lot of his moves are actually like a zapper being pointed at the television and shooting. So he's a zapper. He's representing the light gun as well. So I'm thinking about what hardware representatives could we get in for Smash Ultimate? If there is one. I'm not 100% sure on this trend keeping up with Ultimate, but if it does, here's some possible characters. So here we have two that would be really cool and definitely like a what the hell kind of character with the Satellaview mascots. They're the one on the left anyway is kind of anthropomorphic, so that works in the sense of how it would be represented on screen. And they could maybe do like a Duck Hunt duo sort of thing. I don't know, but I just don't think that this character is known at all in the West, so unlikely. However, sorry. However, they have been representing the Satellaview a fair amount recently, including mentioning the games in the Hyrule Historia, which really shocked me, and then Mario got a Satellaview outfit as DLC for Mario Odyssey. So, Nintendo is aware of the Satellaview still, and they've been referencing it much more regularly than I think anyone would expect. The N from the N64, I could see it. It's kind of, I think in commercials and stuff, it kind of moves around, like it has legs. That would actually be sort of incredible, and it would be perfect for the game because there's so many references to the original Smash Brothers. That is actually kind of perfect, and that's not what one I thought of. I got two others here, but that one might be the best one yet, to be perfectly honest. So next up I had the Virtual Boy, and sort of like with the N from the N64, I was going on the idea of how can it move on the stage, and the Virtual Boy kind of has legs, so that was kind of my my thought process. Now, there's sort of the issue in that the Virtual Boy appears in the background of the gamer level. So making it a character would be kind of like the problem with making Pauline a character. However, those of you who remember the Spirit Track stage from the 3DS, the presence of Toon Link on that stage didn't deconfirm Toon Link after all. He was still in the game. He was just replaced by a different character. And with WarioWare Gold coming out, they've replaced the Virtual Boy with a Wii U in that game's version of the gamer minigame. So, it stands to reason that they could do a similar thing here, or they could like replace it with Alfonso or something to keep the Spirit Tracks motif, I guess. But yeah, Virtual Boy is just something Nintendo loves to reference, even though it's a giant failure. It's like the one huge failure that they just constantly love to like reference and sort of poke fun at. So if they were going to reference like a failed, forgotten Nintendo thing, that they're not too self-conscious about, the Virtual Boy seems like a good choice, and I could see it kind of walking around on the stage. In Project M, actually, that Brawl, I guess you wouldn't really call it a ROM hack, but that Brawl mod that was really popular a couple years ago, Rob had an alt skin of the Virtual Boy. I don't think they could really do that in Smash Ultimate, making an Echo Fighter of the Virtual Boy, of Rob. I see it more as a newcomer, but I guess it's an option to give him a color scheme that's based on Virtual Boy at least. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some other Virtual Boy thing. I don't know. Lastly, and this is the only, for some reason the transparency didn't work on this one, but Game Boy. And I was, for this one, inspired by Captain N. We've got a lot of Captain N characters. We got Simon, Mega Man, and Pit now. Why not throw in Game Boy and his creepy face and his arms? We already have a Game Boy who is fighter ready, and it would be a very weird but kind of interesting callback to that. I don't know how interested Nintendo is in referencing stuff like Captain N. Sort of infamously during Smash Wii U, they did an April Fool's joke where they referenced the Nestor character from Nintendo Power, but I think that was only in North America, and I don't think Sakurai is really looking at Captain N for any inspiration at all. But you could make the Game Boy, it's kind of compact, it seems like it would work, but this is definitely like the bottom of my 3 picks. Oh wait, I forgot about this one. This is another one that actually seems kind of likely. The Power Pad, or the Family Trainer as it's known in Japan, but this would be along the lines of Duck Hunt. My thought process here is, seems like they like to reference the NES quite a bit when it comes to these hardware reps. We got Rob and Duck Hunt, and then the Power Pad is pretty much the only thing left. How do you turn that into a fighter? Well, it's packaged with world-class track meet, and I think it's equivalent in Japan, so maybe the lead character of that game? I kind of a la Wii Fit Trainer, almost, a character like that, and you can work some of the bizarre Power Pad games into it that way. You know, there's like a cooking game with a hamburger, and then another one with like hatching baby chicks. Power Pad really didn't have that much aside from a world-class track meet, but that would definitely be an out-of-the-nowhere thing that no one was thinking about, and it would kind of tie up the NES peripheral characters, I guess you could say. But this one, this one might be even below Game Boy, to be perfectly honest. I don't think it's really that fondly remembered here or in Japan. I think the only reference I've ever seen to the Family Trainer was an episode of Game Center CX. That's about it. That show goes pretty obscure. Okay, I think that wraps up our brand newcomers discussion, so we're going to move into talk of Echo Fighters and the ones that I've heard about, and maybe 1 or 2 that I came up with. I'm not sure. We'll find out here. So Birdo. Birdo is a character that I would love to see as a newcomer. Again, there's the Alfonso problem, I guess is what we'll call it, in that they appear in the background of the Mushroom Kingdom 2 stage. And furthermore, as an Echo, I usually see it discussed as an Echo of Yoshi. I just think that is a disservice to the character. This is kind of like a main Mario villain, or I don't even know if Birdo's considered a villain anymore, but a main Mario character, and just making it a copy of Yoshi doesn't make that much sense to me. Their whole gimmick is completely reversed. Yoshi's all about ingesting things, and then Birdo is about vomiting things, essentially. So it'd be kind of weird. I mean, you have the Chrom situation now, right? Where Chrom is an echo of Roy, but he has a unique up B. And I guess you could do that with Birdo to an extent, but it just doesn't seem right. And also Yoshi has that thing where he his grab is like he eats the person and then spits them out, and then his neutral B is the same way. I don't think Birdo's ever been shown to do that. You'd have to be fudging the character quite a bit to be able to get Birdo represented in a way that made sense and be an echo of Yoshi. A suggestion that I heard for Yoshi that I think is a lot better is Boshi. Because if we have Super Mario RPG representation as it is with Geno, then why not go all the way and get an easy echo for Yoshi while we're at it and reference Mario RPG one more time. But yeah, I think Birdo would be a great character. Definitely not going to make it into the base game or probably DLC given the Mushroom Kingdom 2 thing. But for next Smash, if we want to talk about that, Smash 7, I guess is what it is technically, then I think Birdo would be a real good choice for that game. But as an echo of Yoshi, I think that is, no, not at all. Ninten, it would be an echo of Ness, assumedly, or possibly Lucas, but more likely Ness. This character's major issue is that he's too similar to Ness. He looks nearly identical. I think it might just even be the art style of the clay models kind of changed between Mother 1 and Earthbound that makes him look different at all. They're nearly the same character. In terms of movesets, too, Ninten doesn't use any offensive PSI moves, where Ness has a few. Of course, in Smash Brothers, Ness borrows a lot of his attacks from Paula and Pooh, so that's not so much an issue, but Ninten is a purely, evasive and healer character, so it'd be a little bit weird. It would be nice to kind of round out the series, give Mother one more character in the form of Ninten, and then you have one protagonist from each game, but I just don't see how they could make it unique enough to even warrant anything more than an alternate costume a la Alf and Olimar. So this one is very high on people's lists right now. I just don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. If Mother did get another representative, then I think a better echo would be Masked Man, as an echo of Lucas for obvious reasons. And then you have that hero's villains thing that everyone's talking about. Give Mother an antagonist. And, I think Pokey/Porky is basically the only other character you could do as an antagonist, because Gygus is Gygus is too big, I guess, is what you might say. So and Porky is the same problem. You can't really make him just a fighter who's running around. He's got to be in his mech, and that's huge. More likely show up as a boss character, like he did in Brawl. Here we have Dixie as a Diddy echo. This one seems pretty likely to me. One of the most likely echoes we have left in the game, probably. Of course, the up B is the issue with this one, and I think that can be pretty easily solved a la Chrom. Just basically give her Donkey Kong's up B, but the animation would be her hair. Essentially be identical, though, in function to that. And I mean, just another good character to add to the Donkey Kong roster. You get a newcomer with King K. Rool and an Echo Fighter, which is just a lesser newcomer, but still cool. Also, Dixie was planned back in Brawl as a duo character with Diddy that just didn't pan out correctly. So it's a character that Sakurai's thought about, and it's a character that is also very highly requested on the ballot. And I think for Sakurai, the Perfect Storm is highly requested character, easy echo to make. That's what we saw with Chrom and Dark Samus. So Dixie is highly likely. I would actually be surprised if this character didn't make it in. And I don't know if he's interested in doing echoes for DLC. Definitely something that could show up as DLC, though, if he is. And he doesn't want to put it in the base game for some reason. Ken is a character that I think has been explicitly talked about by Virtuaban as an echo of Ryu. For me, this isn't the best choice for a Street Fighter echo fighter. I would rather see Akuma, who is also very similar to Ryu and is more of an antagonist or evil kind of character. With Street Fighter, it's kind of hard to talk about antagonists because every character is kind of a protagonist to some degree. But I mean, Ken makes sense. He is the original clone of all fighting games in a way. So I could see it happening. It just wouldn't be all that interesting to me. And I just think Akuma would be a lot more strikingly different. Because I think that Ken's Hadouken's the same color as Ryu's, where Akuma's is this cool purple color. I think you could do a lot of neat effects with Akuma. But I mean, Virtuaban hasn't been wrong so far as I know, and it just seems like an inevitability almost. And the idea that Echo Fighters are kind of another name for clones, and Ken himself is a clone within his own series, it is kind of perfect. So definitely can't rule it out, and it's probably pretty likely. So this one is something I barely know any F-Zero apparently. I played the first one on Super Nintendo. Love that game. It's a ton of fun. It's a shame, and that's why I'm so glad that the Super Nintendo version of F-Zero is represented in Smash Ultimate and Smash for 3DS. But after the original game, I really don't know anything. Here we have Black Shadow, who is apparently the antagonist of the F-Zero series, and doesn't look too different from Captain Falcon. Seems like he can make a decent Echo Fighter of Captain Falcon. It satisfies the villains thing. More villains in Smash is only a good thing, and I think maybe Sakurai has realized that with Ultimate, is that we like to have these sort of dream battles, and dream battles include villains as well. So Black Shadow makes a lot of sense for that anyway. It'd just be another character, though, that's completely invented. Like, Captain Falcon, like, none of his character stems from his original game. Because how do you make a race car driver man a Smash Brothers character other than just invent a moveset? So you'd have to do a similar thing with Black Shadow. It's fine if he's an Echo, I guess, because I guess we just assume in the world of F-Zero everyone has the same kind of attacks. I don't know if F-Zero fans would consider that a disservice to the character, though. I don't know. To me, it's just something that seems obvious from my point of view, and it would definitely throw F-Zero fans a bone when they've been kind of shafted for the last maybe a decade. I think the last game was on GameCube, and there was supposed to be one on Wii, but that didn't end up working out. Also, I gotta say that Smash already is kind of impressing me with some of its F-Zero references, because for a brief second in the recent Smash Direct, when he scrolls over Port Town Aero Dive, you can see it says F-Zero GX and AX, which was the arcade version that's really obscure. It's actually a cool arcade machine because it has a slot for GameCube memory cards, and you can like transfer the data and I guess use it in some way on the GameCube version. There was one at Disney World I saw like 8 years ago or something. It was kind of neat. But yeah, Black Shadow, why not do it? Why not give F-Zero another character, throw the fans a bone? Just make him like Captain Falcon. Because Ganondorf is different enough now. You've changed Ganondorf, it's not like we're going to have 3 Captain Falcon clones. So Funky Kong here, and he's really tiny for whatever reason. But this would be a smart Donkey Kong Echo Fighter. They're like the same build, and we haven't seen much of Funky Kong, but why couldn't he do like everything that Donkey Kong can do? He's also kind of on people's minds just from Tropical Freeze being re-released on Switch with new funky mode. I think that he's kind of a meme character that people would like to see, maybe a la Waluigi, but not with such a fervent and kind of frightening fan base. So it's an easier Echo to make than Dixie Kong is, and that's why he might be more likely than Dixie. But I'm gonna say that I'm gonna say that he's just too minor of a character to make it in. I know exactly that. That's a great point. We need the funky mode in Smash Bros. Ultimate, so maybe he needs in over Dixie. I don't know. It's another character. I'd be fine seeing it. I'd rather have Dixie Kong, to be honest, just because that represents Donkey Kong Country more. And you know, now with King K. Rool, it really feels like the Donkey Kong Country cast is coming together. So I'd rather see Dixie in, but if they want to include Funky, I don't have a problem with that. It also might kind of represent the newer games a little bit better than Dixie would, even though she was in Tropical Freeze, I guess. Conundrum. I'm going to say no on Funky Kong, for no real reason other than that. Yeah, I just don't think so. Hilda as an Echo Fighter of Zelda would be awesome. Zelda is using her Link Between Worlds design this time. Oh, actually, technically, in the Japanese Direct, it says it's the Link to the Past design, but they're so similar anyway. Doesn't really matter. So Hilda would be a perfect candidate for an Echo Fighter. Maybe I should look this up real quick. Doing some on-the-fly research. Let's see when A Link Between Worlds released. 2013. So this game would have been around for a good 2 years before the project plan was complete. That might mean that the character was on Sakurai's mind. I don't know. That might be a little bit early, though. So the reverse of the ARMS situation. To me, it just seems so easy. We didn't really see the character do much in Link Between Worlds, so there's that, and there's definitely not a fervent following. I think that this character has only been suggested recently just because people are looking for possible Echo fighters and not because people actually want her. For me, though, it could only be a good thing. It's another Zelda representative. She kind of straddles the line between like a villain and a hero. It's the Lorule thing is just interesting as a whole, and it'd be simple, and why not? Why not throw it in there? But definitely not something I would want to see. I don't think the Echo Fighter creation, by the way, works at like the newcomers, the traditional newcomers do, where they're like, they only have enough resources to make a finite amount. I don't think that Echo Fighters kind of encroach on each other, but if for some reason they could only select like 3 more characters, Hilda definitely wouldn't be on my list. But it still would be a cool fighter, and would represent part of the Zelda franchise, which I don't really see represented much in Smash. It's mostly the 3D games. Here we have Shadow. Just as an Echo Fighter of Sonic, it seems so obvious. Not a character that I really care all that much for. I don't really care for Sonic as a character in Smash Brothers as it is, and so having another clone of Sonic would be the slightest bit, well, not disappointing. I don't think Sakurai can do anything to disappoint me at this point. It would just kind of just be like a shrug of the shoulders sort of thing, like, oh, okay, why not? So, yeah, I mean, his assist trophy hasn't shown up yet, which is a Dark Samus parallel. Sonic doesn't really have any alts that we can look toward, like that's the Shadow-based alt, because all of he's mostly blue, I think for all of his costumes are blue, and then he just has different wristbands, which is something that he shares with Pac-Man and is super lame. But it just seems inevitable at this point. I don't see Smash Ultimate releasing and Shadow not being in it. But he's just kind of a lame character in my opinion. I mean, granted, I'm not a Sonic fan, like a huge Sonic fan anyway. I think the most I've ever seen of Shadow was he made like a brief appearance in Sonic X, which was a show I watched when I was many years ago, when I was much younger. So that's about all my knowledge of Shadow. But he'll be in it, so why even mention it anymore? Okay, now we're getting into the characters that are not going to be in the game whatsoever. There's only 2, I think, that I have here. And I just kind of want to address the controversies surrounding the characters, because why not? Waluigi, he's not in the game. We know this for a fact. There are still people holding on hope, and I myself really believed that he was going to be in the game for starters. Before we saw Ultimate at E3, I was positive they were going to put Waluigi in the game. How could they not, was my thought. Just because he's the missing brother of the Mario, Luigi, Wario, and then Waluigi. And he would represent the sports franchises, was my thought. Sakurai didn't see it the same way. I'm fine with that. It's not a character I really care about, and he's not made any like really major appearances. So I can't say that he's important to Smash Brothers or to Mario by extension. I just think that it's kind of crazy the angry response that came when this character was deconfirmed as a playable character. It's I don't understand it. It's similar to the Bandana D thing, where I don't get why the character is so popular, but taken to a crazy, silly level. It's Waluigi. He's the most generic character. He was literally just invented as like, oh well, Mario has an opposite, so what's Luigi's opposite? I won't deny that it's a funny character, and I like Waluigi, I guess, but it's not something that's going to happen. And Sakurai didn't like make an assist trophy just to troll everybody. Sakurai is into trolling people, but not like that. That's off the wall. I don't see it happening, and I think if people keep on harassing Sakurai, I don't see it happening ever. At least I hope. Lastly, is any Smash discussion complete without talking about Goku and Smash? I read a GameFAQs thread about Goku, arguing that Goku's appeared in like 55 Smash Brothers 55 Nintendo games, and therefore he has more importance to Nintendo than some of Nintendo's own franchises, which is interesting perspective. He doesn't appear in Nintendo like games though. He appears in games licensed by Nintendo. You know, there's been games of Dragon Ball dating back to the Famicom, and all the way through its history. There's that recent one that came out on Switch, Fighters Z. Maybe that's not out yet, but there's Xenoverse that came out on Switch. I mean, he's been around video games, but so have so many other characters. And what is so special about Goku? It's kind of going over my head a little bit, I guess. He's an anime character first and foremost. He didn't start in video games. Why Goku over like Luke Skywalker, who was part of the most, important film franchise of all time, super popular in Japan? Like, why not Star Wars at that point? Like, where do you draw the line? Why Goku? Yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's an argument that doesn't make much sense to me. And if he appeared in Smash, I'd be both confused and probably, maybe that'd be the only thing that could disappoint me. It's just not a video game character. I like Smash being a celebration of video games, and they've done that so well. And I think that the addition of Goku would kind of devalue it. So, that's my thoughts on Goku. It's basically just never going to happen, and I think that people should take a moment to think about it. There's also the issue of balancing, where Goku, like by the recent season that I saw of Super, he's like got blue hair and is like even more powerful than he was in Z, where he was like destroying planets essentially. I just don't see how you make that work in a series where you have like a plumber who can lightly throw a fireball that barely does any damage. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. No Goku. No Goku. And that ends the characters that I have for us today. So, sorry, this is my first podcast. I hope that it went all right. What if the Myst series had a stage? I don't know too much about Myst. I guess that'd be kind of cool. Like, what Smash needs, speaking of Myst, is like a puzzle representative. You kind of got Dr. Mario, but nothing about his moveset is really puzzly. Myst being a series of puzzles, if I recall correctly, it would be really interesting to have a puzzle box of a stage. I don't know how you would do that. It'd probably take a lot of development time. It always shocks me to hear actually how much development time goes into the stages. I think in his last column, Sakurai said that took him like almost a year to work on some of those stages that they were bringing back, and that is crazy. So, I don't know how you'd implement a stage that uses different puzzle mechanics, but it'd be pretty cool. Tetris Block, as hard as that is to visualize in my mind, I mean, Tetris is really popular. Tetris has had music in Smash Brothers. I think on the Luigi's Mansion stage in Wii U and Brawl, there's like Tetris music. And Tetris is one of the most important games of all time, not only for gaming, but for Nintendo. It basically made the Game Boy a success. So you can't understate it. It's kind of like Minecraft in that situation. That's weird to say. Yeah, but like a puzzle character. I've heard people suggest the characters from Puyo Puyo, and maybe that would make more sense. And maybe you could integrate a Tetris moveset into that somehow, because of that recent Puyo Puyo Tetris game, which was really good, by the way. That might be the way to go about it. I think the character's name is Arl, and that has a lot of popularity in Japan. Puyo also has history with Nintendo because Kirby's Avalanche, and I think in Europe it was called Kirby's Ghost Trap, was basically a sprite graphics hack of Puyo Puyo for Super Nintendo. So, I mean, and that series is just really big in Japan as a whole. So, yeah, some puzzle representation would be pretty cool. I've also heard, I think Professor Layton talked about. That one seems less likely to me. I mean, you could always overhaul Dr. Mario's moveset, just make him a completely new, different character. I don't see him doing that just because he's there to represent the original playstyle for Mario, which makes a lot of sense. By the way, I gotta say it's weird that Dr. Mario is not considered an Echo Fighter, but Lucina and Dark Pit are, even though they were kind of all put in there in the same way as like quick extra characters that they could put in the game, because why not? So that's a little bit interesting. But I guess it doesn't really matter. At that point, why isn't Young Link an echo of Link? There's no consistency to it at all. It's just PR that we've all, eaten up, and it's smart PR to say, hey, we're going to pad out the roster with a bunch of characters that are essentially identical to one another with a different skin, and call them new characters. Personally, I love it. I just love extra new skins because it gives different variety, more variety to the game, more visual variety. But yeah. Is there any other characters worth mentioning? Anyone wants to throw out there and we can discuss real quick? Otherwise, we might want to close up shop on this first podcast here. Oh, the mini bomb cart. Yeah, I saw you mention that earlier in the from Mario Kart 64. Right. From battle mode, right? Mario Kart could use some more representation. I think Daisy is kind of fulfilling that in Ultimate, because her music track for her trailer on the Smash Bros. Ultimate webpage is... No, it's not. I'm wrong. I'm completely wrong. Disregard what I just said. It's from Mario Tennis, actually. Yeah, so why not have some more Mario Kart representation in there? A character that literally travels around in a cart. And why not make it the mini bomb cart? Why not? Who is it? I guess Bowser Jr. has some Mario Kart influences in his character. He kind of travels around in one of the carts from 8 Deluxe. And 8, I guess, too. I don't know how you represent Mario Kart. I know that there's what is it called? Oh, I'm trying to remember. There's a Sega Saturn game. It might be Fighters Megamix, where you can play as just a race car from Daytona, USA. I think it stands on its hind wheels or something like that. Something nuts. That'd be pretty cool. That would be an amazing Smash character, actually. Put in the car from Daytona, USA. They actually got the composer from that game to do a track for F-Zero, an F-Zero remix. So get Daytona, USA representation. Throw every game. Every game is here. Why not? All right. I think we'll wrap it up then. Thanks everybody for stopping by. I think this turned out to be a fairly successful stream. I'll definitely work on the format more in the future, and hopefully we'll just have more interesting and productive discussions going forward. And that is all I have to say about that. See you guys.